the 3rd of February 2020, and this upload concerns issues since 2015. As I've mentioned, this town has caused for me an incident of defamation, which has not been rectified or corrected. So that also surrounded an issue of sexual assault and revenge porn. That was over a decade ago. Recently, since becoming married, especially to a property owner, there have been an onslaught of violations with regards to my human rights and my constitutional rights. Um, as I've placed up on this channel uh, a numerous amount of uploads describing the day-to-day experiences of being a victim of crime. It's not just being a victim of crime, it's a victim of hate crime and constitutional violations and human rights violations. Um, Basically, um, due to people's avarice, people have thought it disposable to, not, thought it, just to dispose of an issue, a very serious issue regarding my marital rights and my legal rights. I've mainly concentrated on the issue of medical rights and, bodily integrity and whatnot in my previous uploads. But in this upload, I'm going to focus on my marital rights. I've also touched on the issue about my ancestry, my royal ancestry, and my hereditary that has also been affected in this vendetta of violations. Um, To those that are unaware of the full circumstances or background of this matter, I think it's important for people to understand that as a royal there has been a case of treason, and there has been also a case of very serious spiritual violations against me, collectively orchestrated, and that as a light worker is pretty serious. Um, my body of light, um, you know, angelic royal light, powerful, you know, and that light was absolutely uh, disrespected and damaged during a collectively orchestrated and premeditated vendetta of my spirituality, vendetta against my spirituality and my faith as a light worker and as a member of the fellowship also. So, as I've mentioned, that's the ancestry and the issue of treason with regards to my royal bloodline, and also the aspect of light working as a humanitarian and as a peace campaigner and as an educator, etc., etc. So, these circumstances occurred for me since being married. I didn't condone any of these activities. I wasn't informed, but I, as a light worker, knew the difference and damages done to my body of light and my physical body as well as a consequence. So that's just one very serious aspect of all of this. And then there's the other aspect of the medical issues that have been untreated in this human rights violation case. It's a case and it's a vendetta and it's an issue of hate crime. So anyway, the medical issues have been very serious and have not been treated. I've also mentioned about the defamatory claims by professionals that I'd say would have only engaged with me about 20 minutes and came up with very defamatory claims. Then we have the issue of anonymous individuals making false claims to whoever they're talking to. mental health services or whoever, general practitioners, as they have in the past 2 years. Um, so this is what I'm up against as a victim of crime, and the government and the guards have not addressed this matter. Um, with regards to being a married woman that has been cheated and betrayed and lied to, and as a woman that has been um, not receiving, you know, her rights and entitlements, it's very serious what's going on. So I've explained in all my uploads how this has been systematic, and I've explained as well how intentionally people have withheld my legal rights and guidance and advice and entitlements that I'm automatically to expect. But due to property, and that's what it boils down to at this moment in time, people have been trying to change the facts and stories of this situation, and they have found that very easily accomplished due to how they have isolated um, me in these circumstances, and have withheld information from me, and have conducted their own affairs with regards to what I am entitled to without consulting me. There's been other more sinister and sordid aspects to this also for me as a mother and as a wife. Um, so those are the issues that are also involved that haven't been addressed. This community has made it very clear that it is prepared to conceal all the nasty facts and truths of this vendetta, just as it did, or as it attempted to in the past, when it involved sexual assault and revenge porn. So it's more or less the same culprits, except on this occasion it's a little bit more serious, and the individuals perpetrating wrongdoings against me are a little bit more powerful, and they are basically breaking all the rules and doing what they want and damaging an innocent woman. And I still have suffering from my aches from all my work, and they have been untreated. And as a teacher, and that's my qualification, my profession I'm a teacher, and I've worked very hard for nearly 20 years in this country, and it's absolutely shameful that a community that you'd expect a little bit of propriety and respectability from are prepared to condone and facilitate the most outrageous offences against women's rights, children's rights, marital rights, and medical rights, as I keep reiterating. Um, so, as I'm concerned at the moment about being a victim of crime, this upload is basically for the attention of UN agencies, civil liberty groups, etc., etc., that mightn't have the full, honest version of the facts. And the thing about it is that in this issue, there's been isolation and people making the most defamatory claims about my character, and about a grain of those tales are, you know, have any substance of truth to them. And basically, this community has been, I don't know whether it's been cognizant of the fact of how serious things are, but the individuals that know how serious things are have gone too far to cause further wrongdoings and to involve people that have no business being involved with this circumstance. With regard to my married life, I was going to say with regard to my farm, with regard to my married life, or my personal life, or my upbringing, or anything like that, or my profession. Um, so basically, this is touching on a few different topics that are all culminating as a very serious issue for a person that's a victim of crime. that the guards and the government have ignored. And as a result of the spiritual violence that's occurred also, um, I'm wondering, are people not aware of the implications of having assaulted my light body? And are the people of propriety not aware of how serious it is to have an issue of treason occurring? People falsifying information and presenting false evidence and falsifying documents, etc., etc. We all know the tactics that people play, and dangerous circumstances are occurring. And as a whistleblower, and as a law abiding citizen, and as a victim of crime at this stage now, in a community where I have not ever perpetrated any offences and where there have been very serious defamatory claims made and stated about me, without me being able to represent myself fairly or justly, um, and not having the opportunity to correct the lies that have been told or the claims that have been stated is very worrying for all women, because it is there are implications and consequences of this circumstance for all women, not only those that were involved in the spiritual assault of my light body, but also for women that would ever think of, facilitating or condoning this kind of a situation. So I'm just so curious as to why people have found it so difficult to acknowledge the most serious offence of human rights, as far as I'm concerned, in Tralee County, Kerry, Ireland. Um, we've heard of whistleblowers in the past in Ireland and how they're harassed and ignored and isolated and undermined and discredited. Um, but, you know, this situation in particular um, is unfathomable, to say the least, due to the previous, circumstances that occurred over a decade ago. So this is the second time this has happened, and I have a clean sheet, conscience, record, clean hands, the whole lot. And as a woman that's been deserted as a wife due to property and other people's intrusion into my family life, that I'm also fully aware of, and the expense that people have gone to is absolutely, it's disgusting that this could be happening in this day and age, and it's very worrying that there are so many outrageous lies that have been told, and people's conduct has made me think about the state of humanity. And as a humanitarian that has helped people in recovery and out of recovery, and that has helped people in classrooms and as a teacher, etc., etc., I'm just worrying very much about the lay of the land and the laws of nature these days, because this situation is very serious for any woman to be experiencing. And I'm very disappointed to have to say this on an upload, but I expected a lot more from the guards and the government. Um, you know, there are some things that can't be bought, and there are some things that just aren't for sale. And I shouldn't have any reason to be worrying. I shouldn't be in public accommodation. As a mother, as a wife, I shouldn't be in this circumstance. And as a member of the fellowship, and as a light worker, and as a teacher, um, you know. So I'm just concerned about the acts of violence against character and physical violence and sexual violence these days. And I'm worrying also about like how people think that you know systematically disrespecting my rights gives people leeway into um, circumstances where they don't belong. And as I've said, since I've worked for over 20 years in this country, um, it's very dangerous for this kind of disrespect to be occurring, because to undermine and isolate a person without consulting them and without having respect for what's been stolen from me, and without even having had received any amends for what happened over a decade ago, you know, and medical you know, medical issues that haven't been rectified or treated or compensated for. So this is all very worrying what's happening. And I'm just very curious as to why the guards and the government are not addressing this. And I'm just wondering who is obstructing justice and at what cost are they causing this damage. Because as I've described in the previous upload, my body of light is pretty precious and my body has been damaged very severely. And bodily integrity is very, 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 so these are the kind of issues that are occurring now for me tonight on the 3rd of February. Um, I've been contacting government since 2017 and they still haven't contacted me. And yet the stories and the tales and the strategy and tactics of the culprits have been changing very much from one goalpost to another goalpost in the past 2 years. And if that doesn't say enough to people about how many falsehoods have been relayed while isolating the individual, the victim, and the person whose rights and entitlements are being disrespected, then I'm just wondering of the logic and conscience and morals of the people involved. So that's pretty much about what I need to share about with regard to how marriage and desertion and family life have been very seriously disrespected. And with the elections coming up, and I'm just curious, there was an interesting comment made by the Labour leader recently, or was it a few months ago, about the family being the cornerstone or the unit, the central unit or central role of society. I'm just wondering, have the Labour Party any consideration to what's gone on with my family, what's been done to my family, and the issue of withholding information from a person, from a mother, from a wife, or you know, from a citizen. You know, there's, just because you're withholding the information, there's the mother's instinct, that, there's that sixth instinct that parents know, and that women know. We all have that, don't we? And, withholding information and concealing the truth and stuff, doesn't doesn't mean that it didn't happen. And as I've said, the falsification of information that, you know, it's also been